Okay, hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of the Build It Yourself mathematical bridge model. We've come to this stage here, which is all the tangential trusses. We now need to put in the banisters, which there are 2 on either side and 1 along the top. The first 2 we need to take out, these bottom 2, if you look at the frame to the lower of the screen there. So I'll just take those out. 1 and 2. Okay, so one side has a small angle cut in just to the corner here, which is going to go up to the top and snap in there. Okay, so that corner flattens out for the middle banister and they all meet together perfectly. So you can see just how they meet from this side. It clicks in from one side, so no complication there. So what I'll do is I'll just put a little bit of glue on each connection and then I'll pop it in. What you want to do is glue just the top connection there, and then every other connection except for the end one. That will come into use later. So what I'll do is I'll put a dab of glue on each one there. 2, 3 and 4, and place it on the model. Make sure it snaps in so they're all in the right place, and then just hold your fingers gently on each connection. There we go. Now the easiest thing to do at this point is to turn the model over and do the same thing again on the other side. So if I take this part here, you can identify the little angle at the top there. That should snap in. Make sure that you do it just to make sure it's right first. And I will glue that piece in as well. There we go. Okay, so hold that down for a few seconds. Then what we want to do is find the middle banister, which is at the top there. So we want to look for this piece here. So it's the next piece up on the frame. If I just take that away from the frame itself. There we go. Okay, so this part actually enters in and twists into place, as you might be able to see there. So it will snap into place by twisting. There we go. Okay, so to take it away, I will twist it away. Okay, so one more time just so you can see. It will snap in that way. Okay, so what we want to do is we need to glue both sides of the small banister and then snap it into place. So if I glue this side here, there we go. Okay, so we find the way that it goes, put it into place, make sure it clips in, wipe off any excess glue with a tissue. I know I'm using my hands, but either way, there we go. Okay, so now twist it, keep it just nice and firm, twisting into place for a few seconds until it's dry. That should do about there. Okay, so now we've got our banisters on. What we need to do now is put the vertical parts on either side, which are these 4 pieces at the top of the frame here. So if I take the first 2 away, which is 1 and 2. Now you'll see that 1 is named on the bottom side V1, it says it around here, and that has 2 parts out of it there. The other part is V2 and that only has 1, as you can see. So V1 will go first on the left side, so you'll see where the 2 cuts meet in there. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just glue only those 2 parts, 1 and 2. I'll just stick that on. Now it's important that you turn it on its side and make sure that these parts meet flush here, and only press them into place when they meet flush with the long horizontal piece and the banister, which is running along the top. So you should be able to feel no bump when you move your finger over the top of it, and push it into place. Okay, once that's dry, what I would usually do is turn it over, and then you can see that V2 will fit just opposite it, like that. So with V2 what we'll do is a couple of dabs on this side, one dab in the middle where it connects to the horizontal piece, and then 3 dabs should do it on this side. 1, 2 and 3. Oh. Okay, so once again we need to make sure that they meet flush. So if I put it into place and make sure that it's all level, they meet each other perfectly, and then put a little bit of a squeezing force on there, and it will squeeze the two of them together. Eventually, once it's dry, you should be able to let go and it will stay. So, one moment. There we go. Okay, so now we get the other V1 and V2, which are the next two, just next to ones that we've just cut out. So 1 and 2. Okay. So V1 with the 2 notches cut out there, that's going to go on the left side. We'll do the same thing again. There we go, so that's flush. Squeeze that in there. And then turn it over, grab V2 and do the same again. Okay, so now that we've got all of that done, we have 16 pieces left that we need to put as radial trusses across the bridge. These are quite conveniently named. So each part will have either 1A, 2A, 3A, up to 8A, or 1B, up to 8B. So what we want to do is find all the A's for the beginning. So I'll cut out all the A's that I can see. 1A is here. What I usually do is I'll line them up in order. There's 1A, 2A, 3A, got there eventually, 4A, 5A, where are we? There we go, 6, 7, which is a long one here, 'and the last one, 8A, which is here. Okay, so we've got them all lined up. Now what we want to do is we take 1A, which for me is the top one. Just make sure that you've got the right piece. It has a small notch cut into the side of it here. It's only 2mm, but you'll be able to see it anyway. This piece is going to join through most of these parts. So what we want to do is just make sure that we click it into place. Give this side a little push in. Click it into place, and then make sure that it's sitting flush with everything. Okay, so this is probably the most technical piece that's going to go in of the radial trusses. So what we'll do, turn it over and glue every notch that you can see in there. So there's one at the top, one next to it, and a larger one where I'll do two, one, two, and then one at the end. Okay, so we'll do the same thing again. Push it up against everything, push these inwards, and then give it a little squeeze. Just make sure that everything's in place. Okay, so the reason why these parts are labelled A and B is that one side is very different to the other, in that this notch that I was talking about earlier exists on every part. So number 2, you might be able to see, if I turn the camera a little bit there, there's a little notch inside this part here. It's very important that they're all on the same side of the bridge. So that's why they're all labelled A, and then the other side is B with no notches. So what we're going to do now is put number 2 on, which will fit on there. This should click in quite nicely as the bridge has taken shape by now. So what we want to do is glue every single notch that you see in the other side. 1, 2, 3 and 4. There we are, and then we'll just put that down there. If you just hold on to it where there are little nuts and bolts in the design, that'll put pressure in just the right place for the glue. There we go. Okay, so I'll repeat the steps for part 3. Make sure you know where it's going first. There we go. Okay, now this part has a slightly larger notch at the top here, so what I'm going to do is put 2 dabs of glue on the top there. So we go 1, 2, and then 1 on the other ones as well. There we go. Okay, so put that in place, and again push on the little nuts and bolts. There's part 3. So now I'll repeat the steps for the rest of the parts, and then we'll turn the bridge over in a moment. So 5 goes just about here. Okay, there's part 5. As you can see, one thing that's quite handy with the model is that everything's symmetrical, so once you've done it once, it's the same on the way back down. So part 6, same as part 3 over here as well. Okay, so if there's a bit of difficulty when putting it on, it's sometimes important to push in a few parts so the joints find each other safely. Make sure that it's in there properly, and I'll give it a glue. 1, 2, 3 and 4. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now part 7, which is the same as part 2 on the other side of the bridge. We will snap that into place over here. That one's being a little bit difficult. There we go. Okay. Okay. So I'll glue this part once at the top, once in the middle, and once on each piece here. Okay, and finally part 8, which fits the same as part 1. You'll see it fits flush on this side with the vertical, and we're going to have to pick it up and make sure that we can put a little bit of force into these parts so they click in nicely, and then make sure you look at it from a side view to make sure that everything is flush. You don't want these parts poking out from the bottom of part 8A. So what we want to do is just give it a little bit of glue. There we go, pick the model up, stick that on there. I usually push in at the bottom here and make sure everything snaps in. Then just make sure that everything's flush. You should be able to run your finger along it and there won't be too many bumps on the edge there. Alright, so that's one side done, 1 to 8A. Now what we want to do is turn the bridge over to the other bare side. We'll take the same frame back again and we want to cut out all of the B's, so 1B to 8B. So again, I'll line them up as I did before, just to avoid confusion. Five, 6, 7, and last one, 8. There we go. So I'll move that out of the way. Now, although it says 8A in the left side here, we don't want to put 8B on that side. We need 1B, which is going to go, we're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we follow the same pattern on the other side. Okay, so exactly the same for each piece, but this time once they're glued, it's a little more simple. They locate a little easier because everything's held into place by the previous ones. So for example, with number 1, we just want to make sure that it's sitting flush again. So look at it from this angle, make sure that everything's flush, rub your finger along it, make sure there aren't any bumps, parts sticking through. There we go. Okay, so part 2. Goes here. It's a little easier when you have the whole thing to squeeze. So you're squeezing it from both sides, making sure that they meet. Okay, part 2. Okay, part 3. Squeeze that into the next space put a little bit of pressure on it again. Okay. There's part 4. Five. Six. Part 7, and last but not least, part 8B. You might have noticed while putting these in that this is the side without notches, so you might be able to see the difference between the two now. This one, make sure again that it's all flush when it meets with the other side, so you can always put your finger along it, make sure that none of the parts are poking through. Look at it from the side and see it's quite flush there. Okay, and there we go. So you'll realise at this point that it's becoming very solid as well. You can sort of feel how solid it is from just picking it up. Unfortunately, what we need to do now is do the same thing again, so you might need a little break here. If at this point you want to just do something different, what we can do is put these 2 walkway pieces on here. What we will need to do so is one of these feet here. As it has a right angle, it's good for keeping things square and straight. So what I'll do is I'll just cut that out. Now, one thing that's very important, and part of the reason why I made this video, is that actually there is an issue here where you need to make sure that this radial truss here actually meets with the end of these diagonals on here. So as you might be able to see, this is the wrong orientation. So you'll be able to see that here they don't actually meet. So if you then flip it over 180 degrees, pop it in, and you'll realise that then it fits a lot nicer and they actually meet up. So you'll be able to see there, just along this part here. If I turn it the other way, you'll be able to see from that angle that they don't. Okay, so you want to spin it around 180 at that point, and you found the right orientation. Click it in, make sure you know what you're doing. You can see that there's a notch just on this part here, a notch here, and then it affixes from the bottom of these two parts. So what we want to do is just use a small touch of glue. Make sure that you put this down the way that you're going to pick it up and back in, just to make sure. You need a dot of glue in each one of those notches. So we want to go on the edge of this one here, here, and then inside this notch and inside this notch at the end. So I'll just do that. A bit much there, but there we go. So remember how you placed it down, pick it up again, push it in, and then what we need to do is use our little foot there. If you place it down and push it up against the walkway, make sure that the walkway is flat. So push the walkway up to the foot. Using that, you can guarantee that it's going to set fairly flat. And there we have it. So what we want to do now is repeat the steps for the other side. So we need to make sure that these meet up. Again, we'll be able to see here this is in fact the wrong way round. So what we want to do is turn this 180 degrees, pop it in. Like I said before, it will feel a lot nicer when it's the right way round. It will slot in very nicely. And then we'll just glue all of those parts again. Looking good. Perfect. Okay, so for the moment we won't put in the smaller walkway, as this is the last piece that we're going to put into the model. We'll leave this, put it to one side, make sure you don't jog it or drop it, because these pieces are at the moment on there only by the small notches. So at the moment we need to put that to one side, and then we'll build the other side before going any further. So I hope you followed that all right. Please let me know if you haven't, and thanks very much.